Hello guys and welcome to a new video. Of course, you can see the title. Today we're going to talk about if Project Cars 3 really is an arcade game, or is it still this game that it tried to become a simulator and didn't do that well. So sit back, relax, because today I'm going to answer the real question: is Project Cars 3 a simulator game or arcade game? So when I bought Project Cars 3, I actually was expecting a full-out arcade game. I saw the development logs that Project Cars put on their website, and at the start I was pretty disappointed because I really expected Project Cars 3 to be like Project Cars 2, just with improved handling and overall game experience. And when the information about the game with no pit stops, more simplified setups, and all this stuff that they wanted to remove to simplify the game for the end user, was released to the public, a lot of people got really angry and sad that Project Cars 3 wasn't at all the same as Project Cars 2. And I thought this as well, because Project Cars 2 was and 1 was a simulator game for racing, and you could really go down and deep into the setups and the strategy when you drive a long race. But this isn't in Project Cars 3, and I was really confused by this. So I thought, okay, and I'm still thinking today that, okay, Project Cars 3, is it really Project Cars 3 and not a whole new game? Because even though like the cars are pretty much the same as Project Cars 2 and lots of the maps are, is it really Project Cars 3 this game? Because it's really new. The concept is new. I actually thought that when I got the game and played it for the first time, when you start out with this Toyota something, I could put it on the screen maybe, but when you start with this, and I drove it a lot, there will come lots of videos of it from my career mode. But when I drove it and still drive it, it's very oversteery. And to come back to the question of if this game is a arcade game or simulator, it's really up to what you make out of a simulator and an arcade game. Because I still think that this game actually has a potential simulator style into it, and not in a very good way, but the handling, I was very surprised to see how oversteery the standard cars was. Not the GT cars, I will come back to that later, but the standard cars. Because when I drove it, this Toyota, it was very oversteery, and I had to counter steer all the time. And this surprised me, because Project Cars 1 and 2 wasn't at all like this. But I actually find it enjoyable. So I was pretty scared when I tried this car to try the GT cars, because I thought that the GT cars was the same, like oversteery and arcade-like feeling. And then I went in and I tried out arcade, no, not arcade, I'm sorry, GT3 car, the Ferrari GT3 car. And I was surprised, because it actually felt pretty good. It actually felt pretty good. when I drive the GT3 cars in Project Cars 3, it actually reminds me of when I was driving Project Cars 2, just better. Project Cars 2 and 1 had a horrible handling in, at least in the oversteer the oversteer part of the simulation. But when I oversteered in this car, it felt, I wouldn't say easy to save, but you could feel what you had to do to save the car. And this was what I always wanted from Project Cars 1 and 2. I always wanted them to fix this oversteer issue, but they didn't. And the curbs and all this. And I think by simplifying the game, they actually made it better. They made it better. I actually love driving the GT cars now, because they don't make this unpredictable oversteer randomly through a corner where you're driven the same line through the corner 10 laps in a row, and in the 11th lap it just snaps on you and you lose the car for no reason at all. But they fixed this problem, and I know that it's a very simplified game now, and they moved towards the arcade category. It still has some simulation over it in the handling. I'm not saying iRacing or R Factor and not Assetto Corsa Competition, but more like more like Gran Turismo and not Forza. That's a bit too much arcade. But F1 2020, that's also an arcade game, but there's actually esport in F1 2020, and it's not an arcade game like Mario Kart. That's pretty extreme, but you still have to be precise with the handling, and you have to be very, very dedicated. And when I like categorize games, at least racing games, normally when I get an oversteer in a car, you should lose time. That's just basic knowledge, that 90% of the time you should lose time when you make an oversteer into the corner, because you have to have this stable car through the whole corner, and that's the perfect setup and the perfect line. You don't want to have any oversteer. It stresses your tires, it stresses your whole car, and you lose time. So when I drove this GT3 car, I drove it on Imola and Catalonia for a long time. I tried to push it so hard I could, this GT3 car, and when I had oversteer, I lost time, as you should in a GT car, because it's dependent on downforce. And when I then tried out driving it with a normal standardized car, it didn't lose time when oversteering, and I'm okay with that, because if you lose time when oversteering in a standardized car, it's going to be pretty boring, because standardized car actually oversteers a lot, at least if it only has like rear drive wheels. So if you lose time oversteering, you're just having a bad time trying to not oversteer all the time, because standardized cars oversteer all the time, as you could see in my first career series, and as you can see in the trailer of the whole game. They just oversteer, and this is certainly not a bad thing, and I actually like it. So I think I'm giving props to the developers of the game, that they fixed all the standardized cars, made them more fun to drive. I think the standardized cars are more arcade-like, and the GT cars are actually still more simulator-like. They're still hard to drive, and you have to practice a lot to gain a lot of speed. So I think there's still a simulator. The whole game, however, when it comes down to arcade or simulator, you can't make pit stops. The setup are standardized, and these two things are a very big factor. When it's raining, the puddles, the rain puddles, I think it's called. They are not as you can't aquaplane that much in this game compared to Project Cars 2 and 1, and these things I don't like, but I actually prefer the new handling model of both categories of cars, the downforce cars and the standardized cars, because it's just more fun to drive. Even though I'm driving the championships in iRacing, I think it's more fun to drive these cars compared to the last two games, and I think that's the overall improvement of the whole game. So, coming down to the question, is this an arcade game or a simulator game? I will actually say that it's in the middle. Like Gran Turismo and like F1 2020, even though it doesn't have pit stops, it's still it can still be a serious racing game if you wanted to. And even though a lot of people says that in the reviews that it's so bad, this game, and I don't like it and stuff, I think they're exaggerating a lot, because it's actually a pretty good game, and yeah, I would actually recommend it. If you ask me before release if I would recommend it to one of my friends, I would say no, don't buy this game. It's going to be disappointing. And the first time I played it, but it became good. You just have to try out the cars and actually just recognize what they made out of the game. So yeah, it's both arcade and simulator game. So that's my opinion of this game. If you liked the video, please leave a like. You can also comment if you didn't like some of the stuff that I said or have another opinion. And please subscribe. It helps out a lot, and I just started off this channel. So please subscribe, and I look forward to you watching my videos in the future if you do. So yeah, peace out, man. Bye.